Hey everyone, Shauna here. I have another video for you because you have been asking for more. Thank you so much for your comments, your questions, your idea topics. There have been a lot. Today's video is a very specific one because it's very specific to my area of expertise, which is austere environments. And so last year, a friend of mine was going on his first analog expedition, and he wanted to know, he was going to be crew medical officer. He knew I had been a crew medical officer for several analog missions, including a Mars simulation, as well as an aquanaut mission twice, and he wanted to know my tips. So I have 5 key tips for you. If you are going to be the first aid officer, the safety officer, the crew medical officer, or even if you just want to be a good crewmate on expedition. And this is based off of having been on 2 Mars Desert Research Station simulations as commander, as crew medical officer, on 2 underwater aquanaut missions as crew medical officer, and having been on deployment to Ukraine on a medical deployment. So here they are. First of all, know your environment and know the most likely injuries and skill sets that you will need to be prepared for. So that's a 2-in-1. First of all, if you're going on a lot of hikes, a lot of excursions, be prepared for blisters. Be prepared for preventing blisters. Have good footwear, good socks. And on the corollary side of that, be prepared to treat blisters. So that's your first set of 2. Know the most likely injuries and then practice those skill sets. Number 3 is kind of related to that. Know your crew inside out. If they trust you, have them tell you their medical background, their medical conditions, the medications they take, their allergies, and then things that make them comfortable or uncomfortable. So this is kind of a spectrum from medical care to wellness, and one of the best moves that I've seen one of my crew officers as an executive officer was just figure out what everyone's favorite thing was, and then under the guise of calling everyone's emergency contacts, secretly figure those out and make sure those were present on mission, because wellness isn't just waiting to treat injuries when they occur, it's prevention as well. So know your crew medically as well as, as a good crewmate. And speaking of the wellness spectrum, that brings me to point 4, which is prevention. I would get made fun of on certain missions for being captain safety and, saying, okay, that looks like a hazard. How do we mitigate that? That's a fall risk. That's a sharp object. To the point where it was bordering on being, the person who ruins fun. But, as an emergency physician, afraid of ladders, afraid of ATVs or any type of all-terrain vehicle, and also afraid of mandolins. That's a totally different story. I'll tell you a different day. But that's the other one. And then the last one is just be there for your crew. Be prepared to call on skill sets you normally wouldn't be called to, that you might expect your crewmates to take on themselves. So for example, one thing that took me a bit of a mind shift on my first crew medical officer deployment was, being called for things that you would expect normally folks to take care of themselves: abrasions, cuts, bruises, minor scrapes and bumps that you would expect folks to care for themselves. But this really kind of is the basis for establishing rapport and also being the end-all be-all who documents all of these medical issues as they arise. And it means that once the crew knows that you're there for them, they're going to be willing to tell you the bigger stuff, the struggles they're having keeping up with the crew when you're on excursion, when you're on an EVA, the mental health struggles, missing home, feeling like they're not, being good part of the crew. So this really hit home for me when I was in Ukraine, in that mental health really wasn't talked about with our patient population there. And we would be an hour into someone's back pain or blood pressure complaint, and then they would say, well, actually, this is the first time I've opened up to someone, or this is the first time I've cried in front of someone. And there was all of these mental health issues that no one really had addressed with them before. And so that's what I mean when I talk about being there for your crew. Look for the other issues that may not be immediately obvious. So there you go. 5 key tricks for being a good crew medical officer on expedition. Know your environment, prepare the skills for that, and prepare for the injuries that are most likely to arise in that environment. Know your crew's medical history, as well as from a wellness standpoint. Know what makes them up, what makes them get down, and try to address those. be captain safety, be the one who looks out for preventative measures and prevents injuries and sadness and sickness from happening before it actually occurs. And then finally, look for the secondary medical issues and mental health issues that may not be immediately obvious, and take the time to be there for your crew so that there'll be someone that they trust and they can go to when something arises. So I hope that's helpful. That's very, very niche, but I think it's also applicable in day-to-day life and on expedition and on excursions. So let me know what you want to hear about next. Shauna out.